We're really so excited about tonight because we've been in Tucson, we meaning human beings, for a long, long time. And there's a great interest these days, fortunately, in looking at the historical background and the prehistorical background and the cultural underpinnings of what makes Tucson still a beautiful place to live in. We have two speakers, each with a great deal of work and study with their hands as well as with words and oral traditions and written traditions. In every aspect, they've been studying the land here and what agriculture could be like. We will start with Kendall Kroesen, who grew up in Southern California. He got a bachelor's degree in anthropology at UC Riverside. After college, he worked for a few years on archaeological and conservation projects. He became a bird watcher. Later, he got a PhD in cultural anthropology from UC San Diego and had done 20 months of field work in Central America. He's held postdoctoral positions of research, and then in 2002, he shifted a little focus and joined the Tucson Audubon Society on staff. I met Kendall at the Mission Garden, where he's been the outreach director for a number of years now. I was there soon after the garden had opened and was interested in shading Tucson, and they said, well, you really ought to talk to Kendall. And he's got a wealth of knowledge and has put a lot of energy into the land here. I'd like to say a word about Duran, but then we'll say more when it's his turn. Duran is the farm manager for the San Xavier Association, and that is a remarkable operation they've got going there. Very, very deeply grounded in history and ancient principles of care for the land. So we'll hear about that from him. Our format is about 15 minutes for a little slideshow. And maybe there is someone who could mute, because there is a little bit of feedback happening. And Dwayne, if you're still there, you have the capability to mute people as the host. Thank you. So after about 15 minutes of slides and talk, then we'll have a few questions. So Kendall will start that way, then Duran will share his slideshow and give us his picture. We'll ask him some questions, and then we'll just go back to the speakers and ask them if they have a few more comments to make, and we'll move into an informal but and yet structured question and answer period together. A reminder, it's always kind if you are asking a question, make sure it is a question. It's really courteous to our speakers to be clear on what the question is and give them the floor. We're just there to stimulate a few good ideas from them. So with that said, Kendall, please tell us about Mission Garden, about the agricultural roots of Tucson, and anything else that you've brought today.
Well, I went a little bit at the last minute away from my usual kind of presentation, which is just about Mission Garden, to kind of lessons I've learned, or lessons learned at Mission Garden. And I've got quite a few slides here. Sorry how long this is. I'll go through it pretty quickly. Mission Garden inspires people to connect to this land by reclaiming agricultural traditions for our community in a changing world. So inspiration, reclaiming agricultural traditions in the context of a changing world, really the key concepts there. As you approach Mission Garden, you see a lot of urban development, and you see a lot of this kind of landscape. As you get a little closer, you see the big replica of the Spanish colonial era walls around the garden, but you peek over the walls and you see a really different context, one that would have been familiar to people through most of the 4,000 to 5,000 year agricultural history in Tucson, but one that is a little bit special today and out of the ordinary. But this is what I think for a lot of Tucson's history, what people would have thought of. We're portraying historical diversity of both people and crops, from the earliest corn agriculture that now some archaeologists are saying may go back as much as 5,000 years or more in Tucson. The domestication of local wild foods like tepary beans, the introduction early on of amazing foods from from Europe, Africa, Asia, Middle East, and its adaptation to our local growing conditions here. Just a quick plug, we will be harvesting our wheat field this Saturday, the 18th, in our recreation of the San Isidro Harvest Festival that happened every year since the introduction of wheat. Through the Mexican period and the introduction of new crops, Chinese farmers in our region, and just a multiplicity of cultural groups, and literally hundreds of crops that grow here from many parts of the world. One of the most recent developments, the Africa and America in the Americas garden, portraying crops that were developed in Africa and the long history of people of African descent here. And one of the most important lessons learned is we can bring people back together in Tucson. The people are as important as the crops. Agriculture, when done right, involves a lot of people working together of diverse backgrounds, of all of the age spectrum, from kids to longtime community activists and volunteers, all working together in a rich, inspiring environment. And literally scores and scores of other partner organizations in Tucson collaborating with Mission Garden here. So it's become a nexus of shade, of food, of diversity of people. And many of them volunteers. We had over 300 people volunteer in a variety of capacities in 2023. Over 300 people. And there's nothing like food to bring people together. So the all of the production now of the garden is outreach. About half of the food that is grown at Mission Garden is given away to the food bank, food pantries, refugee groups, reservations, and some of it is sold, but that too is outreach to the public, and some of it is made into food, which is the best kind of outreach to tell people about food and where it came from. And where it came from is the historic floodplain of the Santa Cruz River. And when I heard about the new release of reclaimed water in the Santa Cruz River being called the Santa Cruz River Heritage Project, it congealed in my mind a big lesson that I've been learning while at Mission Garden. And by the way, this is kind of a retrospective for me because I have 2 weeks left at Mission Garden before I retire. So all these lessons learned are very important to me now as I come to the end of my time there. I'm a bird watcher. I'm the first person to go down to that new release of reclaimed water in the Santa Cruz River bed, but calling it the Heritage Project really got me thinking. This eroded flood control ditch and a little bit of reclaimed water being released into it is not the heritage of the Santa Cruz River. This deeply eroded ditch that we think of as the Santa Cruz River today, relatively recent development. it's trying to heal itself, but we keep having to deepen it again so that it'll hold flood waters. This is a Google Earth view of the area where Mission Garden is, the downtown Tucson in the upper right there, I-10 running top to bottom through the photograph. Down by A Mountain, that's Mission Garden. It's part of the larger Clearwater Archaeological Site, which is just one of many archaeological sites running along the Santa Cruz River. Again, what we think of the Santa Cruz River as today is this linear eroded ditch, but historically the Santa Cruz River, more like a mile-wide historic floodplain, which is largely under commercial and residential development in I-10 today. But that floodplain was the site of corn agriculture starting again, maybe as much as 5,000 years ago. This is an artist's reconstruction of what was found at the Las Capas archaeological site, the style of corn agriculture being used there and canals bringing water off the river. This is Paul Maroca's image painted from A Mountain using archaeological three-dimensional virtual recreation of the Santa Cruz River Valley by archaeologist Doug Gann. So very accurate. And whatever you think of this photo, or this painting, it is very accurate in terms of the width of the floodplain, the location of Mission Garden in the foreground, the mission, all on the site of the autumn village of Tucson, from which Tucson got its name. Again, on a historic floodplain reaching all the way over to what is now downtown with the Presidio there in the distance. Again, in 1852, Bartlett drew this drawing looking from the side of A Mountain more north toward Mission Garden, the granary and chapel and convento that were at the mission. Again, you see a very pastoral, wet, agricultural kind of scene there. And then the Carlton Watkins photo from 1880 looking down from A Mountain with the Mission Garden footprint in the foreground here, what was left of the mission here. But again, iconically, and we've lost this today, but this mile-wide floodplain of the Santa Cruz River, at this point, probably in 1880, with most of the water captured in canals going to agriculture. And my best attempt at overlaying a recreation or a replication of this photo today, and we can see how much it's changed. The heritage of the Santa Cruz River is not in that eroded flood control ditch with a little reclaimed water running in it. It's in this potential for rehabilitating, reinvigorating the soils in that floodplain, all of the archaeological heritage, the sacred nature for many people of this location, and its potential to be productive again. The loss of that historic floodplain and that surface water that was available is our foundational environmental crisis. We've been through a lot in the last 20, 25 years that I've lived here. The attempt to get the Bruges pygmy owl listed, a lot of environmental crises with mines and with development and urban sprawl, and with the Clean Water Act and the loss of coverage of a lot of our waterways under the Clean Water Act. But we forget that way before we were born, this more critical loss happened, and there's this issue of the shifting baseline where we tend to think of the current environmental crises being the ones that are most important, but our most important crisis happened long before we were born. But we can bring that floodplain back to life. This is the site of Mission Garden before work was started in about, well, I can't see the date, but 2005 or something. And this is the development of Mission Garden. This is 2012. So this is the last 12 to 13 years that unfolds before your eyes here.
So this is probably the exact same presentation he just gave to Todd, right?
Sorry, say that again? Was there a question?
We can hold the question till you're done, Kendall.
Okay. Yeah, so with the city's reclaimed water system, the logical place to bring that water is to that floodplain, which is where a lot of the reclaimed water originates. There's a lot of potential in the floodplain to still grow food. And we're growing lots of food at Mission Garden. Whoop. Go back to the button here. The garden is being repopulated by a lot of the wildlife that used to be across that historic floodplain before it was agriculture, and still while it was in agriculture. Tucson was in the first half of the 20th century, largely because of the Santa Cruz River and the Grand Mesquite Bosque, was the place in Arizona for ornithologists to come. It was just an amazing resource, and these animals are repopulating. Animals that would have been common across that historic floodplain are repopulating, and in some cases eating our pests. So a level of biocontrol is reestablishing itself as well, natural biocontrol. Gila, top minnows in the acequia, lowland leopard frogs, and at night, trail cameras picking up a variety of other wildlife coming over the wall into the garden, bats and raccoons and bobcats, and more recently, a gray fox. So we're reestablishing wildlife habitat too. As we go forward, what's going to happen in the next 100 years? Well, we've got a place in the lower right there, Tomorrow's Garden, which is reserved for experimenting with this. We've had some ideas about what it should look like, what we should portray as the future of agriculture in this region. Tomorrow's Garden will portray a style of agriculture that will have to adapt to higher average temperatures, more extreme weather events, including extreme heat at times. And so we have done some cover crops and some edible weeds so far, but we're still in the planning stages. It's certainly going to require some of these historic crops, especially ones like agave and tepary beans and nopal that use very little water or no irrigation in the case of agave. I'm going to skip over that slide. We've had 150 different suggestions for Tomorrow's Garden, and we're sifting through them to see whether vertical gardening, subterranean gardens, aquaponics, hydroponics, agrivoltaics, any number, shade tunnels, any number of things. We've begun to sketch out what this corner of the garden is going to look like, but we're still in the early stages of looking at the next 100 years of gardening and agriculture. Next 100 years, do we want to continue to live and do business on the historic floodplain, or do we want it to go back? You know, the last 100 years, as it's transformed into the way it is now, largely having commercial and residential development on it, that eroded flood control ditch, that's only about 2% of that 5,000-year history of people living on the Santa Cruz River floodplain, growing crops and using the resource there relatively sustainably. Maybe in 100 years, we want it to be different from what it is now. It would certainly take a long time to reverse or re-engineer or terraform our own environment here. But time is on our side. We've got again, 98% of our history here of agricultural settlements along the Santa Cruz River in Tucson are really different from what it is now. And we need a 100-year, 200-year, 500-year plan to re-engineer this. Well, that's where I'm going to stop, and I will await a question and answer period.
Thank you so much, Kendall. Let's see, we'll pause and see what questions arise. I've got one to start with. What would you say is the lesson relative to wildlife? You just had, some of them you would have a statement, and you just had wildlife as the topic of that lesson.
I'm sorry, say it again. What's the question?
I'm just wondering what the lesson is about wildlife.
Oh, well, it's the lesson of if you build it, they will come. And the reintroduction of water and surface water in the form of the canal that we have in the garden. For me, a functioning floodplain without that wildlife component would be kind of depauperate. It would be kind of much less interesting. And I think that that the Mission Garden is a very food-rich environment, and but that's not only for people, it's going to attract wildlife. And you know, we don't lose a huge amount of the produce to pests and to wildlife. We coexist largely with this wildlife. So I think the lesson is that it's going to be part of the mix of bringing back, and even if we don't bring back the floodplain to its full historic glory, there's many lots, there's many backyards, front yards, landscapes of businesses where it can start to look like it used to look. And that will be a boon for wildlife as well.
It seems harder to go back, to retrace steps, than to keep going forward. And in my lifetime, things get more built over, more complex. Buildings get higher, views get lost. I'd love to hear how you could imagine a dismantling of a certain amount of infrastructure off of the floodplain. And you hinted at that, saying there's some people doing that in a way. Can you elaborate?
Well, I think that one thing I would like to see Mission Garden do is export the know-how, the knowledge of both native and introduced and cultivated food production into other parts of the floodplain. And I think that it's been such a human success, and it's become such a humane place, a place where people go and have their blood pressure lowered just by the experience of being in there. People suffering from mental illness, having experiences of working with their hands and finding solace and relief. I think that exporting what Mission Garden is doing to anywhere else on the floodplain that's currently available could start a movement toward reclaiming at least some of the historic floodplain. And, you know, again, time is on our side. I don't think it would happen soon, and it may not ever happen to all of the floodplain, the historic floodplain, but I think there's potential for more mission gardens, higher water tables, and that's why groups like Watershed Management Group and Sustainable Tucson are so important, because we're all working back. We're moving forward toward a future that may have some of these characteristics of the past in it. And you can't know what's possible for the future if you don't know what's been there in the past.
Thank you, Kendall, for that answer and for everything you showed us. And we'll obviously circle back around after Duran has shared his insights as well. So let's make that shift. And Duran, I would just like to welcome you as a member of a community that has roots going back centuries. We don't know how far back. I wanted to share just a few things I picked up about the San Xavier Cooperative Association. They declare very clearly, we're committed to healthy farming practices and growing traditional crops. And this will support cultural and environmental values. It will also support economic development within the community. So you've got prosperity, you've got environment, and you've got culture, all in essentially the mission of this cooperative farm. And the website, I think it's worth all of our taking a brief visit there, if not a long one. They have 5 principles that they describe that guides their decision making and their work in the land. And they all start with respect. Respect for land, for sacredness of water, for elders, for animals, for plants, saying for all of our brothers and sisters. And as the manager, Duran, we're very excited to hear how you see those things happening and where you see us reaching back and moving forward.
Thank you for the introduction. Thank you all, first of all, for the invitation to share a lot about the farm and what we're doing. San Xavier Cooperative Farm, as they call it in our language, WAC, the community of WAC, San Xavier has been engaged in farming for decades and millenniums, and the community has been there for generations, and you can see it in the people. Today, I'll just give her information about the farm, talk about history, what we're doing, and really just this topic here touches all bases with us. We've been through it all when it comes to battling for our land, battling for our water, battling for our culture, and just our way of life here in the nation. But that being said, I'm going to share my screen now. Forgive me, I have 2 screens, so if you see me looking in another direction.
A tactical note, there's a little, it sounds like there's some static or something in the background. I'm not sure if anyone else notices that.
I believe, Duran, it may be from your location, and I'm wondering if your headset microphone is the microphone selected, or it may be another. I don't know if it's another microphone. Could you go in your audio settings and make sure that your headset microphone is the one that's being used?
Oh, that's what it is. I think what it was. Can you hear me now? How does that sound?
Maybe that your bandwidth is a little congested, but let's try that. I think that's an improvement.
It's clear.
Okay.
Yes, we got some thumbs up from the audience. Thank you, John.
Gotcha. Can you see my screen, everybody? Yes?
Yes, looking good.
Okay. Well, first of all, my name is Duran Andrews. I'm the farm manager for Xavier Cooperative Farms. Xavier Co-op Farm is a private, tribally owned and operated business. We are not an entity of or a department of the tribal nation or the tribal government. How we got started was the landowners that were farming in the area in WAC. Had got together and combined their land, which was a part of the Dawes Act that had happened back from the government fracturing some of the Native American lands. How the people turned around and used that against the government, what we like to say is that they created the Cooperative Association, which is our business known today. We operate a little under 1,000 acres of farmland. Currently, I am a farm manager, and I'm Autumn farm manager. And I like to put it like that because many farm managers before me, since the first farm manager, have not been Autumn. They have not been community members, and have been brought in from the outside to try and manage a tribally owned operation. We have since then, the past 2 years of my operation, focused on repurposing our farm and our purpose, our mission. Back to that specific reason, and which I'll talk about here in a second. But a little bit about myself. Of course, when you say farm manager, you almost think an older person. Years and years of experience and education, knowledge, all these things. I'm 34 years old. I started farming back in 2017 when 2016 when I started agriculture school right on the nation. Got a degree in Associates of Science for John Autumn Agriculture and Natural Resources when I graduated in 2018. I started here at the farm that same year. It was really an interesting just adjustment right away from graduation to application. Learning about everything in the field. Not only that, but learning about a different purpose of farming. My background is food production, education about food crops, traditional crops, wild harvesting crops, all these things like that, mesquite beans, all these things which I'll talk about here in the future, in the next couple of slides. Coming to the farm, they hired me as an equipment operator. In my opinion, a quick turnaround, but all farmers have to have a good experience with equipment. But I also got hired in the feed department, which is a completely different department that I've ever got experience in. But learning about feed and its purpose and its support to all the traditional crops and projects that the farm is doing has really brought that full circle for me. And then in the past 2 years, since June of 2022, I've been promoted from an equipment operator to operations supervisor to a farm manager, and it's been a quick adjustment in my opinion, 10-year jump in my career overnight. The farm manager at the time he quit. They were left without guidance and leadership, and we were in a bad spot, both on a business level and a operation level. And I had really good experience coming from the inside as an employee to get that focus and redirect us in the right direction. And I'm so glad that the board of directors had to choose an actual Autumn farm manager. So some history of my background and what I've been doing on the farm. But back to the farm. Like I said, refocusing our purpose. Everything in the beginning, the plans, when the landowners got together and created the purpose behind the farm, this was the mission statement. And this was our plan. This was our goal. This was everything that was set before us. And we just had to follow through with it. And our mission statement is the Santa Fe Cooperative Association is committed to helping farming practices and growing traditional crops to support the cultural and environmental values, as well as support economic development within the community. The Santa Fe Cooperative Farm considers the following aspects of Autumn Himathak or way of life to ensure the decisions in the farm's rehabilitation projects are consistent with the culture. Everything we do has to come back to the culture. In the past 2 years, I've always made that a very fine focus, specifically in the food. And I say that with that being seeds, you know, and that's a little bit of insight to what's going to be coming in our next couple of slides. But this mission statement, it gives us purpose, it gives us authenticity. Everything we do is unique. Everything we grow here is unique. Everything we harvest from off the land is unique, whether it be the 60-day corn or the mesquite pods that we harvest to grow into flour. We process it to flour and turn into cookies and things like that. Very, very interesting stuff. But authenticity gives us a very unique position, and we try to harness as much as we can. One of the other things that the farm is very unique and known for is being certified naturally grown. We spray no pesticides, no herbicides, no kind of additives or fertilizers. The only outside source of that comes onto our farm and hits our crops is essentially Arizona Project water, which I'll talk about then here in the next couple of slides, which is, of course is our current water supplier. Um, this helps us maintain a very, very unique product when it comes to both our food and our feed product. Those customers that are conscious about what they're feeding their animals, no, we're definitely following that category of naturally grown, even more higher than organic, because organic definitely has a barrier of where they can spray some things and what they can't spray. But we don't spray anything. We work with the land, we work with the environment, we use biological control to try and help what we can do to fight certain things. Right now, we're dealing with foxtails on our feed department, and it's a very big issue. But again, biological control is some of the things we do. Heavy planting some of the things like teff grass, Sudan grass, to help weed out some of those grasses during the winter and the summer. Just adapting to some of those things, helping our feed crops grow a little bit more with our food crops. And our food crops alone, they've got a lot of history. They have helped us and gain a very, very respected place in Tucson, otherwise known as the city of gastronomy. We've been in the past couple of years known for the city of gastronomy just receiving the certified retailer and catering designation. We've been, of course, honored by the American Indian food producer as, authentic American foods under the Tribal Agricultural Council, giving our foods a very, very unique market as well as a sticker to label our products. Interesting stuff, but again, very, very unique resources in what we do on the farm. And of course, our main purpose, and I'll start with this, of course, and it's our food. Food production department consists of right now and 5 employees, one supervisor, one lead crew operator, and the rest farm operators. They do everything from start to finish, growing the crops to watering the crops to maintaining, processing, and harvesting the crops, as well as helping out with other things when they bring it in. They'll help the processing department get into products for the store when they need to. But just to dabble into little things we do here on the farm. Of course, you see some of the watermelons. We've both done the red and the yellow watermelons. We're known for yellow watermelons here on the farm, but we do grow both. You can see that one of the things we've learned to do is try to adapt to equipment. I say that because this past Monday, actually, hopefully you can be keeping an eye on our Facebook. Hopefully they'll be releasing a video sometime soon. But we did our first planting of our traditional crop, our 60-day corn this past Monday. And in my opinion, when I came on as an equipment operator, just kind of studying what they were doing and knowing my background of traditional crops, we did everything by hand in school. We did everything with push planters. It was hard to find equipment on a large scale that met the seed demand. Our seeds are very unique. They don't have the same shape. They don't have the same size. They have all their own characteristics across the board. But it's very hard to try to adapt equipment, and wherever we try to use it, we can. And try some of these things you see here, like for example, weeding, cultivating, we try to adapt to early on before to keep the weeds down beforehand. Once they get too tall, we can't do it just at a certain point too, or too thick. Um, and then combines. Over the past few years, we've brought in combines to help harvest our tempeh beans. our peas and things like that. It's been very unique and strenuous in my opinion because we were taught to do everything by hand. When we were in school, we would go out and cut along the way, roll it up into a giant ball on a tarp and smash it out, and then separate the seeds from there in a greenhouse once it's dried out to a certain moisture. To see this and going through a really thrashing motion, it's hard to see, but it increases production. And here at the farm, when I came on as a manager, food production was sitting at 40 acres, which is very, very small. I don't know why on a 1,000-acre farm they were given so minimal acreage. I gave them a 100-acre goal, and currently, right now, I believe they're sitting just under 70 acres of food production crops across the farm. Very, very awesome in my opinion. I love to see that. We want to see that grow a little more because they do have 20 more acres or 30 more acres to get to that 100-acre goal. Plus, once it meets 100 acres, I'm only going to give them a 200-acre goal. So the more food comes out of it, the better. And then with our big demand that comes from all over, from the Desert Diamond Casino to the local pantries and even the community food bank that do food boxes and things like that, to our neighbors here, the Yaqui tribe that do their own community food boxes. We try and meet as much as demand as we can, but of course, when you grow on a small acreage, it doesn't do very well. So that 100-acre goal is a very, very big passion of mine, and I'm hoping that we can chew that out in the next 2 seasons here. It's been very, very interesting to see what the food production crew has done. But in short, it's very, very unique. So anyways, these operators are also responsible for nursery outside of the field. They take care of the nursery, the greenhouse, our only orchard on site, which is in the yard. They help grow out summer, winter crops, as well as irrigating in between. We have our own irrigation department, which I'll talk about in a couple slides, but these guys, as farm operators, assist wherever they can. Of course, one of the biggest things we try to work with is cross training, just making sure everybody understands what they're doing.
Have we lost you, Duran?
He is frozen.
Oh dear. And we've got a slide. So it's outlining safety procedures. Might be a good time for people to think over and have a question or two to ask when he's
From
done.
a small scale garden, I think it was about a 60 by 80 garden I worked out of the college, to a 1,000-acre farm. Safety is a big issue. The safety.
Duran, it looks like you got muted somehow.
You're still muted. We had lost you for about the last minute and a half or two. So you'll have to go back for a slide and catch us up again to the slide that had the tractor tipped over in it.
Yeah. And can you unmute? There we go.
I don't know why. That's weird. I don't know why I muted automatically.
Wow.
You froze from our perspective about a minute or two ago.
Oh, wow. Okay. Let's see.
Back to that safety
what
slide.
slide?
Safety.
Safety. Okay, we were kind of right on point then, just a couple of seconds off.
Okay.
So on the farm, safety is a big thing for me. I've seen everything from trucks hitting gopher holes, like you can see in the background. We'll water a field. It's precise mathematics, laser leveled 2% depending on the field, sloped out.
Excuse me, Duran, I'm sorry, but your sharing screen has ended. You'll need to reinitiate that.
Oh, what's oh.
It just must have happened when you got frozen for a moment.
Gotcha.
Now we're back.
Yeah, so We laser level our fields. Once we get them watered fully completely, they sit anywhere from 8 inches, so that will be the 3 to 2 inches below ground subsurface, and then everything else will be above ground. Um, we do 12-inch watering within a 3-week period. We try to lay 4 inches down every week within those 3 weeks. It's very very strenuous because when these waters find a gopher hole, they'll turn that into a pipe and they'll go anywhere from the next field to the out into the road to flooding a resident. Right now, if you look behind this picture into the field, behind that field, there's actually a house that somebody lives at. So we got to be very cautious when we do these things. In the bottom lower hand corner, going from gopher holes, we also try to be ahead of them and maintenance them and try to find them and punch them in and refill them when we can. But they'll find us eventually. As you can see, this tractor backhoe you see in the bottom hit a gopher hole and it almost tipped into a ravine. The operator, of course, was wearing his seatbelt, so he got held in the cab. So shouldn't he had he had not been, he would have thrown him into the ravine and on into a barbed wire fence, of course. But safety, I was making sure you wear your seatbelt, um, not only just in your cars but in your tractors. The center picture you see here is a um, improper following of SOPs. Standard operating procedures are very, very important. I guarantee you, if you read them and they're very well written, they'll save your life. They weren't following this process at all, or even a process. They were trying to replace a filter. This was my second season at the farm, and as one of my jobs as a farm operator, we were tasked with irrigation. We were maintaining this basket here in a filter, which we change out every other season. Um, they didn't drain the line. Basically, they didn't shut off the line on the intake and the outtake, and those two ends have valves for a reason, so that we can maintenance the system. They skipped that process and tried to open the basket, and water came pouring out. That vault you see there, and if you ever drive by the farm, you see this tank right here next to the yard. There's a metal vault that sits underground that we have all our access to our irrigation system controls, and it sits anywhere from 17 feet to 9 feet, and it's a drop. So when this thing filled up, I think it was at about 4 feet when I finally got out of the tank because I was concerned. But they ended up having to drain the tank and drain the line and start all over again. Again, following proper SOPs. Um, and then from there, okay, creating SOPs for other things. Again, fires. I don't know. Most of you guys are probably from Tucson or have been to Tucson for many years, but we had a fire here several years ago. It was completely avoidable. We had 3 days of consecutive rain. I'm not sure if any of you remember, we had about one summer or 1 year we had about 13 inches or 7 inches of rain in one summer, something like that. Um, that 3 days of consecutive rain caused a lot of um, an inventory to be molding. And then a week later, we were the the staff on it went in to move inventory, and it spontaneous combustion. People don't think it's real, but if you know what compost is and you know what hay is, this is our biggest fear. And that night, everything went up. Um, I was an equipment operator running the baler that time, and it was just heartbreaking to see all that stuff go up in flames overnight. $20,000 worth of product, not including the facilities that had melted down on our barn and everything. We lost a couple of tractors in the back that were parked there too as well. So it was a big loss on a financial level. But going back, coming into the management position, creating SOPs to stop and help us create codes like code reds to prevent these things, and proper training for first aid, basic science training too. Compost. I mean, learning about compost can help you avoid spontaneous combustion. But it's a very very unique history we have here on the farm. But since then, we've had, of course, first aid training with the staff. We've had first aid equipment installed in all of our buildings. We have AEDs and a couple of our buildings that our staff are trained to use. We have our fire suppressant compliance and SOPs are applied to all buildings, all equipment, and include our hay. Also include our hay process, of course, because that's where we're very cautious on, especially when it comes to this experience. I can never say safety is a big thing. It's for us, we're a couple miles across, and safety is a really big thing. And leading off of that, we have a very, very unique operation when it comes to our 1,000-acre span. And right now, when it comes to logistics, we use of course, all your basic operations when it comes to QuickBooks for procurement, accounting, processing, tracking. We have iPads that help us track everything from clock-ins to messaging each other to honestly just location. Our iPads have location tracking, so we can kind of see where staff are on the safety level. Um, we have a Square system that helps us track our POS for our store, everything from inventory to products, sales, all that stuff, on-site and off-site. Very unique and helps us be very flexible with our sales options. We have a application called Farm Logic that we use that helps us track everything from harvesting records, irrigation records to crop plantings, harvestings, equipment servicing, equipment listing. If it's about farming, this application has it. It's a very, very unique application. We use it here with the application on our iPads, and it helps the operators be very mobile when it comes to farm data, basically. And then, of course, in this picture you see here, you see a two-way radio. My opinion coming in as a manager was that it's more in the event of emergency, cell phones are inefficient. Having to call somebody, pick up, dial a phone, and see if the answer is it's not safe. So we use two-way radios here on the farm, and when staff come on site, everyone has a hand radio, and then the staff members or office members, I should say, have base radios. There are cab radios in all our tractors, and then there are code systems to help us communicate, as well as code systems for color code systems for emergencies and situations that happen on the farm. And trust me, we've seen it all here on the farm, from your fires to people shooting guns in the community. It's pretty interesting. But everything has to have a process, and thinking about safety, these things have been covered everywhere when it comes to our operations, our staff, and then people coming onto site. But our two-way radios are on offsite and offsite. We can reach anywhere from Phoenix to this New Mexico state, New Mexico border to the New Mexico Arizona state line to the Mexico border, because we do deliveries as well, which I'll talk about in the next couple of slides. But our staff has been, of course, like I said, they've been trained in first aid, AED. They've been trained. We're actually working on improving and updating our fire suppression SOPs, so which will include retraining our staff. But most of them are pretty aware of what to do when it comes to specifically hay. We call them hot bales on the farm. Believe it or not, if you see a bale steaming, it's never a good thing. The best thing else to do is to take your back of your hand and put on a bale, because like they say, put on a handle for a fire. It's the same exact way. You can feel the heat coming off of it. Very interesting, but that's never a good thing when it comes to bales. Equipment process, equipment safety, because safety doesn't just only apply to people, it applies to equipment. We have to take care of our investments. Not only that, but our biggest tools. When we lose a tractor, we definitely lose a lot of processing and a lot of time, a lot of very important work that needs to be done. So preventative maintenance is a very important thing with operators. All our farm operators are self-trained. We don't have a farm mechanic, and I can talk about it a little in the slides, but it's hard to find them because agricultural mechanics has to be specific in knowing what they're doing. I can ask somebody about how to fix a truck or an engine, but when I ask them how to fix a baler knotter, it's a whole different story. So specialized agricultural maintenance is what we've been working on and training our staff to do. And when it comes to broken bolts, broken parts, having to replace their parts on their equipment or even service their own equipment, our farm operators are all self-trained and on site. They do it here and they have their own tools. So very interesting on our preventative maintenance side when it comes to equipment. Like I said, Farm Logic to help track all of our farm data. So a crop rotation plan. We currently started our crop rotation plan this year for a 12-year cycle. Our crop rotation plan comes from now 2024 to 2032, I believe, and it includes a full rotation 3 times of the farm. So we are starting a whole new plan that hasn't been put in place, and the staff are definitely all involved in that. And it's very interesting, but crop rotation is very important for the soil, and that hasn't been done in the past. Has been very erratic, in my opinion, and in my observation of how the things have been doing in the past. Irrigation is on a schedule now. Like I said, we do 3 inches across the 4 inches across the farm every week. To reach a 12-inch application on after a 21-day period, which should anywhere land anywhere from 3 weeks at the most. Our hay harvesting has a process now to help avoid fires as well when it comes to bringing it into the barn, making sure our number and our moisture and our weight are on point. Anything above 20%, we stop processing or we leave it in the field because it becomes an issue. anything that's higher than 120 on a weight, we definitely have to lose money on because it's not processed properly. So having an SOP on how to bring in the hay has been a big help in us, and then increasing our quality for our hay as well. And then proper inventory control for both food and feed. We had in the past couple of years, I say 10 years, 5 years, I had a cold storage built here on the farm that helped us increase our ability to store food as well as store seed on site. In the past, ever having to rent a semi and bring it in, help with the storage. Oh, did I lose you again?
We can hear you, Duran.
I lost my screen. I don't know what happened.
I think you're still sharing, but you're sharing a dark screen because we can see your.
I know. So I was like, what happened?
Hmm.
See your
1 second. Huh. That was weird.
So,
Can you still see my screen?
yes, now we see that,
Okay.
but it looks like it's loading.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, here you go.
Okay, here we go. Um, of course, like I said, the cold storage is built, and then we have a new barn built with the insurance to help with the fire. And this barn is completely built for storing hay. Our old barn was 3 barns put into one, which basically turned it into a rain harvesting implement that was not properly set right, and that's another reason our hay got so wet that season. But improving all these things and then training staff on how to implement these things in the field and on site. Like I said, our crop rotation plan has started this year. We had rotated just over 160 acres of alfalfa and oats. We're getting ready to rotate just over 60 acres again, 6 acres more of that of teff grass. And then in the winter, we'll do that with Sudan and some probably depending on some of the weed suppression, we'll plant wheat. This picture you see here in the top is in right here behind the Mission Del Bach Church. We had planted 70 acres of wheatgrass, wheat. I want to say it was a wide variety of grains from Sonora wheat to barley, oats, to Pimo. I want to say Duran wheat. I'm sorry. And we did it specifically for weed suppression. We had a lot of Bermuda growing in those fields behind the church, and it was causing our feed crops a lot of pressure and stress. So we were getting ready to rotate those fields out to food, and we wanted to get rid of a lot of it. So, in my opinion, we planted, I think, I want to say 20 to 30 pounds extra on top of the recommended for wheat to help kind of lay a thicker amount, and it came out really nice. The crop and the harvest was amazing, but the Bermuda, our purpose in the end was met because Bermuda was pretty much eliminated across the board with having to be stressed out from loss of sunlight. Of course, it's just been our biggest thing is taking care of the soil. I can't stress that more. We can take a shovel and dig anywhere on the farm and probably find just a wealth of soil livestock, from anywhere from the microbes to your larger things like your earthworms. Very, very amazing and fun to see. It brings me joy to see these things when we go out in the fields and when we're just rotating. But this purpose in the soil rotation plan is for the soil. And the crops involved are to help to suppress a lot of the weeds as well as gain an income back from it. Because one of the interesting things we've added in the past year, teff grass. Teff grass is a warm season crop. It only grows for, I want to say 5 months, 4 to 5 months out of the year, and it has to grow above 60-degree weather. So like right now, at the end of the month, if the temperature is perfect and we're where we need it, we'll put teff grass in, get probably 3 cuts out of it, and then it gets rotated again from there. It sits up there with alfalfa when it comes to a kind of a value of nutrition. It also, but it has a similar look of Bermuda grass. In my opinion, it looks like it, but it doesn't grow like it. It is not as noxious when it comes to the root system. But it's very unique, and it also has helped us battle a lot of weed suppression on a biological control. So very happy to our road rotation plan, but we have a lot of time to go in the next couple of years. And the staff was very interesting to hear about this because they've never done anything like this in the past with past farm managers. As you see here, like I said, 12-year plan, 3-year rotation. 2023 to 2034 is our timeline right now. And then the entire rotation would include 819.79 acres of the farm, which doesn't include our food crops. So right now, of course, has the, you can see at the bottom. But it's very important to what we do here on the farm, the feed. It supports, it brings in a lot of revenue. They generate anywhere from $20,000 a month to $6,000 a month, just on their own, selling hay. And our hay department is very, very, very helpful what we do. Their customer service is very important, and they basically work hard every day to bring us money in. So, our food rotation is managed by our food production crew. They're very knowledgeable. Not only that, but the supervisor is very understanding of what they want. And so, right now they've getting ready to rotate out the 75 acres that we talked about, and meet that rotate out with traditional crops anywhere from yellow watermelon, white and red tempeh beans to the 60-day corn. When I say yellow watermelons as well. So it's very their collaboration, how to say this, their connection is scientific. One of the things I've done in understanding feed crops is that alfalfa, nitrogen. Right now, our corn follows our alfalfa crops, and that has been a very big help in our inventory, because we still have corn from a couple of seasons. I want to say last season that we're still cleaning because of this application of science. The staff has seen it. They're amazed at it, and we haven't seen our harvest of corn like this in the past in quite some time, based on the staff's opinion. So having that rotation plan built in, and introducing the food crops to the feed crops and how they can both benefit from each other has been very helpful in our food rotation, our crop rotation plan. Our marketing department helps us bring in a number of images from all areas of the farm, from things like this where we do guest speakers and things, and sharing information about the farm, to people visiting the farm. And we have seen all ages. This bottom picture you see on the left-hand corner is a group of students from the Barbecue Unified School District High School, and they were doing professional development. They gave us a call and said they wanted to come out and do some professional development training. What did we do? We stuck them in the field and harvested corn. We took the ideology of us growing corn, they're growing kids, and it's very similar in what we do. And our elders always tell us this when we do blessings, and it's exactly what it is. We're growing seeds, and they're growing seeds too. And we got to prepare them for the world. We got to prepare them for everything else. And it was a very interesting workshop. I just want to point out that I didn't expect them to get a whole lot out of it, but the day after after this picture, we went back to have lunch. We walked into that conference room. You could just smell the sweat. Ooh, these people were gonna sleep good that night. But just having them get that farm experience, it's very interesting that when you think about professional development, you think about workshops and things like this. You don't think about being in a field harvesting corn, and getting a different ideology from it. It's a very, very unique situation we have in agriculture. We definitely take advantage of that. We have everywhere from the adults, of course, like this staff here, the teachers, to the college kids that come out from the universities to visit the campus, anywhere from in-state to out-of-state. We've had places from Michigan, Wisconsin. We have a program a Borderlands program that brings high school students from all over the country to do tours, and they've been here to the farm. And we take them out and give them an idea of what it's like to be on the farm. Not only that, but an autumn farm, a desert farm. Farming in Arizona, people never think about it very much, but we can do it, and it's very interesting when people see it. What we do here, their reaction. And in my opinion, I always like to point this out, because we say all ages, so we definitely get the kids involved too. I remember being at a workshop, scheduled for a workshop. Had the PowerPoint set up and everything on the screen. Didn't know. I knew the name of the group, but when these people came walking in, they were all kids, and then right away adjust my okay, information needs to change. How do I give it to them? We got to relate, all these things. Just having to be able to know how to give information to different all age groups, like I should say. We are very unique at that, but we definitely touch bases and all that with our marketing department. And then, of course, our feed store. Everything else would not have a purpose if we didn't have a place to sell it. We do take advantage of outside retailers and collaborating marketing with other sellers that sell our products in their store. But if you can't find it anywhere, you can always find it in our farm store if it's available. Um, One of the biggest things we get demand for are temporary beans, and right now we have a seed saving plan that um, is really unique to what we have because, for example, we can't just go out and buy temporary beans or 60-day corn from Home Depot, Johnny Seeds. These are unique seeds. When the farm is established, these 60-day corn, temporary beans, squash seeds were all given by the community and donated by the community and the landowners at the time. So we had to grow our seed inventory. And when I came on as a manager, they had a handful of yellow watermelon seeds, and they had a smaller handful of temporary beans in the inventory. I didn't understand why they weren't saving seed to regrow it, and understanding that they couldn't just sell everything. So right now we operate a seed saving garden on the farm that helps us meet a lot of these goals. But temporary beans are the biggest demand in our store. And if I had to give you an insider secret, 2 more seasons, and I guarantee you'll start to see them popping up little by little in the store. We're working on trying to grow the acreage and the inventory to help meet that demand, and the staff are on it, I can say at this point. But our store is not only for food products, a very unique place for us to develop the community economic development. We provide a place or a hub for people to sell their products anywhere from art to, you see in the top left-hand corner, wreaths and things like that for Rimoshan or also we have a very unique selection of jewelry from different artists across the community or the reservation. One of the things that we've implemented is little tags that have the community or the name of the tribal member, and the community they're from, highlighting that individual and their unique skills. But we like to be that purpose, that location. So some of the jewelry and things you see outside of farming, you'll see definitely here in our store. But baskets, earrings, beadwork, you'll definitely try and find it here at the store. Our hayloaders. I like to call this our stepping stone into farming. People who apply to the farm and don't have any experience in the backgrounds or anything, or don't have a department they want to go into, they'll probably land in the hayloaders department. And we don't do that as I want to say initiation. It's more or less a training. The hayloaders, they go through a very, very unique a job. Basically, we get paid to load anywhere from 1 bale to 200 bales, depending on the order, and they do it all by hand. Um, with the help sometimes and assistance of equipment, as you can see, but depending on the type of trailer, the type of setup they want, the type of layout, these guys will load and stack those bales for you. You can see all age groups here. We have young guys, we have older guys. If they can lift a bale, they're physically fit to do it, they can take advantage of this job. And then I've since then coming into operations supervisor, used this department to grow the farm. A lot of the people that run irrigation, the head of feed department, the farm operators that work in the food department, they were all hay loaders when I came on as a manager, and we promoted everybody. We started separating and getting them into different areas because I knew that they had good training. The hay loading department offers a great way to create good work ethic, leadership development, training on equipment on how to be an operator, and then customer service. Everything a good employee needs to help communicate, operate his equipment, understand the directions, and how to get the work done. It's been very unique in understanding on how that job is because I didn't come in like that. I came in as an operator, and every now and then I would get a chance. I would go over and load hay because I'm running a baler and seeing these guys do the job every day, and it'd be hot. You can be out there in the cold weather when it's winter, below 60, you're freezing, or you can be out there in the summer when it's 118 and you got to load 100 bales and the sun's up there. These guys go through a lot, and it's a very unique situation they have, but I like to look at that as a stepping stone. And since then, I've promoted a lot of people out of the department to help grow the farm. And it's helped a lot. We had to have somewhere to start from, and this is where it is. This little, just to point out, the equipment operation comes with this loader here you see in the bottom right hand corner. They have a squeeze attachment that can grab 64 bales at a time and move it all at once. Should that equipment go down, they're doing that by hand. And trust me, we've had to do it all from stacks falling over in the field to a customer getting loaded and a stack falling over on the truck. I've seen it all. But customer service these guys bring in anywhere from $20,000 to $60,000 a month on revenue alone. So very important job of what they do. It helps out the farm overall, and it's fed by these guys, feed production. Um, right now, these guys cover a large part of the farm, probably about 80% of the farm, rotating anywhere from alfalfa, teff grass, a mixture of pasture grass mixes from the native grasses that grow, to a straight alfalfa that we grow at a number 2. We don't reach number 1 because, like I said, we don't spray. And in my opinion, the only way you can get number 1 is by spraying a product. But in our number 2, you find some bit of weeds. We try to minimize that as much as possible by leading up to the alfalfa, suppressing the weeds with Sudan grass, teff grass, should it need it, the wheatgrass in the winter. Um, Getting them ready to be looking like these fields you see here in the right upper hand corner. That's a solid number 2 field. And believe it or not, we don't spray anything in that field. It just grows like that. After a few seasons of kind of nurturing it and getting to where it needs to be, they come out very neat. And our hay is very, very amazing. And when it comes to value, nutrition, we fall in we fall under the, what is it? We fall in a good standard category when it comes to USDA's category for hay. Um, our relative feed value is a very good, I want to say 128, just under 130. It's very unique. One of the things we've done is implementing quality assurance and quality control, making sure that our moisture is correct. When they're baling, there's usually an individual out there weighing bales, as well as taking moisture and tracking that data. Should the bales hit a certain point, of course, seed radios, the other guys stop, and then they just wait until you get to a certain moisture, or they'll call it a day depending on what time of day it is or what the situation with the weather is. They follow a 28-day cut, which gets them anywhere from 8 to 11 cuts a year. On the best year, we had 11 cuts, and I remember that year because we were cutting on December into New Year's. I think on Christmas we were harvesting hay too. Very interesting year, but a good year for us when we have a lot of cuts. And right now, of course, when it comes to these guys, their job is very important, but very, very depending on the weather. Should the weather change? Should it rain? Should it, have moisture issues and be cloudy? The hay has an effect on the hay, and we definitely have to teach the staff how to understand that, how to monitor the weather. I like to think that all our staff are kind of mini weather spotters because they understand a lot of the different things on cloud spotting, moisture in the atmosphere. Some of the guys carry kestrels to understand what's going on just directly in the atmosphere at the time. So again, weather is a big thing of what these guys do, and I like to think that these guys specifically, the feed crews, are weathermen on their own, are meteorologists, I should say. So,
Duran, I should step in for a minute. I'm just watching the clock now, and did you have a plan to take any questions?
Yes. I believe we got a couple more here, then I'll be done.
Okay.
Our irrigation department is operated by 2 individuals. Believe it or not, 2 people operating a little under 900 acres of irrigated land and 5 tanks. So they're juggling a lot. And when they go on what they call it 21-day cycle, which is 21 days, 24 hour watering, 21 days straight. So they're on for 3 weeks and they have to juggle a schedule. When that happens, the feed department operators usually come in and take over a Sunday for them so they can have a day off should they need it or should they request it. A lot of times these guys push right through working 21 days straight, and just getting it done. It's very interesting to see 2 guys get it done. But when I first came on, there was only 1 person irrigating. So we had to bring in a person from the feed hay yard and promote it, Lakota here, as an irrigation operator, and he's been a very big help to what he's been doing here. But some pictures you see here in the background, of course, you can see the field water in the background. We control all of our stuff very uniquely by laterals and valve points, I guess you could say. We don't have canals or anything like that here on the farm. Everything's very unique. They call it a Cadillac of irrigation systems because we had a very laid back system. We just go underground and flip a switch. We'll go up to a lateral control like this guy you see here in the corner, or Josh, and just turn a pipe and with a key and then turn it on, and we're good to go. A lot less messy when it comes to it, but we definitely definitely get wet when we need to. Do you see this picture where the water's rising out? Our alfalfa risers, when they aren't maintenance, the riser will come off or the lid will come off and all this water will come gushing out. I've seen these things gust about 10 to 11 feet high off that riser right there. So a lot of pressure when we're thinking about when it comes to our irrigation system, but a very important job these guys have in what we're doing. Maintenance for the farm, they do everything from maintaining the roads to facility maintenance. We did a lot with um, facility maintenance piping. They use ranch pipe in our establishment of the farm, and we have to go in and replace it with PVC where we have it because they don't make ranch pipe anymore. But you can see that they collaborate with irrigation because the road here got overflowed by irrigation or a gopher hole and took out the entire road. So they got to come through and fix the road again so that there's not an issue with staff trying to get around or equipment trying to get around. But two guys that are managing this department right now. Of course, like I said, all of our farm operators are taking care of mechanics and preventative maintenance. And this is a picture of some of the things you see we deal with on a daily, and the things we have to work with to keep our operation moving. And in the end, as I like to close out, of course, farm to table is our main purpose. Our catering department is amazing. I'm hoping that some of you guys actually had a chance to eat some of our food, being here from Tucson or being involved with Mission Garden. We have a lot of good collaborations with the Mission Garden, um, and we see each other at events. So our catering department is operated by our cook, Phyllis Valenzuela. She's a very, very amazing community member. She's a council member. She's an elder, and very, very knowledgeable what she's done with the foods. Learning from her grandmother and generations before her, she's applied a lot of these things to the kitchen, and that has got her very, very great recognition from journalists from Europe coming over to meet us. And this upper left hand corner is actually her setup for PBS. They came out to film her doing her cooking and stuff. You can see her setup on the bottom when she does her displays. You can see some of the things that she does as far as labeling and the different sweets and desserts. And the picture here you see of her is actually she's getting a hod or a squash as we call them, and then she spirals it, dries it, and then we sell it kind of like a dried apple kind of thing. Very, very unique. But I love those. They're very sweet. I love them. But she's been very helpful to meet that farm to table purpose. And without her, we wouldn't be able to introduce things like chiotum tamales or what's the other thing? Mesquite cookies, mesquite pancakes. She's been very, very helpful in meeting us. Being very creative in the foods we bring in. I love the way she puts it. You know, she says the first day she came into the farm, she asked the employees, "Do you ever eat the food you harvest?" And they said no. And so she cooked a meal for them, and it changed everything. So this is an amazing thing that we do. But our farm is a very, very unique in operation. Like I said, we're tribally owned and operated. Right now, I'm currently the farm manager, and overseen by a board of directors that are all Autumn and landowners that are elected by the rest of the landowners of San Javier to represent the farm. So it's a unique situation, a unique farm setup, but we love to be continuing this. I love to be continuing this. It's history and richness and culture is very unique, but important to the survival of not just agriculture, but our culture, our Alpine culture.
Wow,
Thank you.
thank you
I'll
so
take
much.
questions.
Ron, if you could stop sharing screen, then we can see each
Gotcha.
other. And I'll start with a comment from Jana, who enjoyed your catering at the LID field trip. That was the low impact development group. So hats off, and she got someone else really liked that too. Someone Beryl, Beryl's still here. Apparently, is one of your customers. She says we used to get hay from your co-op, but there became a problem with buffalo grass. How's that going now?
Buffalo grass. I haven't seen any eradication done since I was there, but since I was operations supervisor, we do at least try to do a day where we go out and eradicate. The district does their own eradication of buffalo grass too, where we go in and just dig it out, remove it. I'm very observant. I did a research paper in college on buffalo grass, so kind of understand the invasiveness of it and the importance of controlling it. The community does deal with it a lot, but I can say now we don't have too much issue of it on the farm, especially when it comes to the feed. The guys are being educated currently on spotting the different plants and understanding what's edible by animals and what's not. Because some of the things like I said, right now we're dealing with foxtails, which is definitely an issue when it comes to horses and consuming. But right now, I'm going to say no. There aren't any issues with buffalo grass. I would definitely revisit to see what kind of products we have coming in. our crop rotation plan we had recently done should be coming in August, and all that feed's going to be very unique. In addition to what we didn't sell in the past. So.
Well, thank you. Now, I think Dwayne asked, are oats considered a feed crop or a food crop at your farm?
If you cut it in time, with oats, if we cut them right before they hit a milky stage, we can get a good nutrition for a feed crop. Once they reach that past that nutrition, they go into a grain, they become a grain. We could still harvest it and sell it like that, but if we cut it at that certain point, we can sell it as a feed and bale it into a hay. It gives our alfalfa a boost because oats on its own is a very, very good feed for animals.
Great to know. And someone might be wondering, where do you get all of your energy?
I don't know, honestly. Truth be told, I'm actually on medical leave. We started the the hay season 2 weeks ago now, and the first day we did it, I broke my foot. I got hit by a piece of the baler, and it shattered 2 bones in my foot. So I took that as a sign to slow down. I've been home doing office work, writing papers, SOPs, updating things, getting ready for presentations like this. I haven't been in the field, but I'm very thankful to have good staff, and they picked up right where we left off and kept moving. So um, I don't know where I get my energy. I like to think it's passion. I love what I do. When I graduated high school, I went to CAC and got a welding degree. I didn't really know what to do with it and came home. And then when I was looking for something to do, it was just instinct to fall into agriculture. And when I got my associate's of science and the degree here at the college, it really just lit me up. And I've been really fascinated with agriculture because for me, it's just everything your grandparents talked about growing up. The mesquite pods. I always ate them growing up when I was a kid, taking a break, playing out in the desert, having that flavor. Now you can get it in the cookie and in a pancake. I believe there's another organization on the reservation that makes them into a milkshake or something like that, or a smoothie. So I just love the full circle. It keeps me motivated. I love that I'm young because farming has a never-ending work. But I'd like to think that it's my passion. My passion.
Yes, the exercise physiologist would say difficult to quantify, but motivation is a very important source of energy. So
Yes.
wondering how all of your colleagues are responding, because you've come in and you've implemented SOPs, you're very strong in that, safety, first aid, all kinds of high technological farm management tools. How are people responding to this sort of training and we're always going to get better sort of approach?
And they've always wanted it. Like I said, coming in, I have a unique. I mean, in any business, you should hire within, especially when it comes to leadership, because bringing in outside leadership stirs the pot. And we've seen that in the past with, I've experienced 2 farm managers in my time being an employee here. They were both non-tribal. They weren't from the state, New Mexico, and I think the other guy was from Wyoming. Very interesting. But it it has a purpose when you relate to who you are. You relate to your employees, and I have that benefit of being able to have worked next to them. Whether it comes to when I was an employee here at the farm or when I was an intern in college, we used to come to work here on the farm, helping them harvest and things like that. So I have a very good relationship with the staff. I like to think that they understand my purpose, my goal. It was probably a curveball to see them have me be manager, but in the end, I think they were very acceptive to a lot of the things because I included them in everything. When it came to right now, we're planning for our next year and creating our budgets, and we're asking them, what do you need? We'll create a budget. Should we show them how to do different things from creating basic budgets to researching information to apply for grants? Just giving them the tools they need to be the best employees. It has made their job easier, and I think that they've all accepted it. Anything that I've brought to them are definitely open to anything that I bring to the table. It makes their job easier. I guess that's the best way I can put it because they didn't have those things when I was an employee. I'll put it that way.
Wow, so the innovations are appreciated. I'm curious. We really have gone to the point where we thought we might end, but I'd like to invite either of you, Kendall or Duran. Perhaps you have a question you'd like to ask the other one, or just any comment you'd like to make. Because you were two, you are both, one is of the younger generation, one is of an elder generation. One is working very much at recovering what are those ancient roots in Tucson, and you're integrating the ancient and the modern. Just curious what you would like to put in. Kendall? There you
What?
go.
I just like to set out. I mean, I don't know how long you've been there, Kendall, but when I was an intern for the college, I know that you've done the mission has done facility building since then, and they've added additions to the area. When I was in college, we used to come out with our tractor and plow the fields before they did their wheat planting and stuff. We used to disc and rotate all the soil for them. So for me, that was a good experience because I always loved to go to Mission Gardens because I would see it growing by when I was a kid. I would see the establishment, see it going up. Um, Being able to go there in college and learn about it, work there, gift them with information, and as we do, as we say, gift them with work. Was very honoring to me. But I'm happy to see what you guys are doing. I know since then you've built a building in the field that I did plow before.
Yeah, a lot of changes there. A lot of we've done a lot of things in the garden. Mission Garden's kind of a microcosm of gardening and farming traditions over the years, and you're really doing large scale stuff. One question I had is, can you do what was your goal number of acres? What's your goal for the number of acres you want to cultivate?
Right now for food crops, it's going to be 100 acres, so that would be minus from the 875, I want to say. So probably land around 700 acres of feed crop rotation and then 100 acres of food crop. They haven't met the food crop, so I think they're just at just over 70 acres. I want to say somewhere 72 acres or something like that. But that's for food alone, so it's a smaller than the feed crops.
Are you able to irrigate all of that with your allocation from the CAP canal?
Ooh, that's a good question. I didn't speak too much about that. Yes, our water supplier is the Colorado River, Central Arizona Project. That's a result of the water battles that happened when the city of Tucson got established. The growth and everything, and it's interesting for you to show those pictures because that's the first thing that came to mind was, wow, it had an impact not only on us but everywhere because that used to be all farmland. The farm manager that trained me, he actually was the first farm manager for the farm. Talked about all these farmlands that used to be up and down Valencia and down south on the south side, and they're not there anymore because they're out of housing. It was interesting, but when the city grew, they tapped into water. The farmers here were using groundwater at the time, and when the aquifers were dropped and depleted, they didn't have water. So that the farmers before the co-op went to battle with the city. The city, of course, fell into the whole legal battles. The nation jumped in with the community members backing them, and ended up getting the thought out the nation its own legal water rights, of course, along with every other tribe along the Colorado River. That got affected by, of course, depletion of water or their local water resource. So it's very unique, and we try to be very cautious on our water usage here when it comes to gopher holes and things like that, still in our water, as we like to say. But